It's the end of the line for a horse rescue operation in Valley Center. The investigations and questions that haunted High Caliber's fundraising efforts. President Trump is warning migrants from Central America that their caravan won't be allowed to enter the U.S. What will their options be when they try to leave Mexico?
I'm KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando, and I am here at the Nat, and I wish television could convey smell because there are 13 chefs preparing food for Pack Arts Spring Showcase. I'll be speaking to the director of a documentary on Filipino food called Ulam.
And the band plays on. Meet the San Diego musicians who want to make a big splash with a Tiny Desk concert. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. A High Caliber horse rescue in Valley Center is closing. According to a Facebook post, the nonprofit has been in the center of an investigation over allegations of fraud, animal abuse, and improper veterinary practices. iNews Source reporter Brad Racino has more.
Michelle Natilla, High Caliber's founder and president, said in a weekend Facebook post that she's heartbroken to report the nonprofit is shutting down. She added that, quote, "It's getting harder and harder to find the peace amongst the war we now call rescue," unquote. iNews Source has written 11 stories about High Caliber since February 28th, detailing ongoing investigations by local and state agencies, statements from former High Caliber board members who said they knew nothing about the nonprofit's financials and that records filed with the government were inaccurate, an alleged outbreak of a highly contagious equine disease at the ranch that was kept under wraps, and Natilla's questionable expenditures, including thousands of dollars spent on Weight Watchers, spy technology, late-night fast food and bar tabs, and other purchases. The Attorney General's office prohibited High Caliber from fundraising in March for not filing its 2016 paperwork detailing revenue, expenses, and other disclosures required of nonprofits. The office lifted the prohibition this month after High Caliber filed the paperwork. Natilla told iNews Source in March she has done nothing wrong while running the organization, though she has not responded to interview requests since. iNews Source will continue to follow Natilla's decision to shutter the horse rescue and what happens to the animals under her care. For KPBS, I'm iNews Source reporter Brad Racino.
iNews Source is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. People who want to expand rent control in California say they have enough signatures for a ballot initiative. Backers gathered at the Capitol today to support the plan. The initiative would repeal a 1995 law that prevented cities from adopting rent control on new construction. If approved, local governments would be allowed to set their own rules.
The rent is so high in Los Angeles that only if you earn $100,000 a year can you live comfortably.
What I think is this will pour gasoline on the California's housing crisis, because what it ultimately will lead is a housing freeze.
Critics say expanding rent control could make the housing shortage worse by discouraging new development. Finally, an answer, but perhaps not the one a Del Mar parent was looking for. KPBS education reporter Megan Burks has this update on one mom's fight to get transitional kindergarten in her school district.
Transitional Kindergarten, or TK, is a program for 4-year-olds whose birthdays are after the cutoff date for regular kindergarten. Del Mar Union is one in a small number of districts that don't offer it, even though the California Department of Education says they should under its interpretation of state law. That disconnect didn't sit well with Catherine Fitzpatrick, whose son will be eligible for TK in a couple of years. She's been calling Sacramento to get clarity, and now a Senate policy analysis this month says districts like Del Mar do not have to offer TK. Fitzpatrick says she hopes the report isn't a door closing, but the push lawmakers need to amend the full law.
I was actually really encouraged by that hearing because it does seem as though the senators do understand the need to clarify current legislation.
Lawmakers have their chance. A bill moving through the Senate would expand TK to all 4-year-olds and provide an opportunity to make edits to the existing law. Megan Burks, KPBS News.
Arizona is set to be the latest state where public school teachers take action to demand better pay. Walkouts are planned at several school districts, and a new national poll shows most Americans believe teachers should be better compensated, even if it means paying higher taxes. AP reporter Peter Banda has the story.
Teachers in West Virginia were successful when they walked off the job and won a pay raise, sparking similar protests in Kentucky, Oklahoma, Colorado, and Arizona.
It's almost impossible to make it work unless you've been teaching 25 or 30 years and unless you're married and you have a second income. But we shouldn't have to be married. This is not the 1870s. We shouldn't have to be that single teacher working on the prairie.
There's public support for the teachers, according to a new poll by the Associated Press Nork Center for Public Affairs Research. The poll finds that Americans overwhelmingly think teachers are underpaid.
Every year when we have our parent-teacher conferences, parents always say, "You deserve more money. I don't know how you do this. I wish you could get more money."
The same poll shows a slim majority of Americans support the teachers when they strike for higher pay.
We are a rather complacent sometimes group of people because we just do our jobs. We're not out for the flashy attention. And we finally are standing up for what is right, and we're standing up for our kids, and that's the reason we're here.
Although the poll finds overwhelming support for higher pay, fewer would be willing to pay higher taxes in exchange. Still, half say they'd be willing to pay more. Researchers say figuring out exactly how to raise more money for education remains a difficult question.
State level taxes are less stable and much more variable and potentially more detrimental to the public. So through a lot of years of trying to problem solve this, it really does seem like local property taxes are the best way to fund our public education system.
Another finding in the poll is that when students' education gets disrupted in a strike, everybody gets the blame. Teachers, teachers' unions, state governments, and even local governments. Teachers in Arizona will be testing the public support when they walk out as planned later this week. Peter Banda, Associated Press.
A San Diego Assemblywoman is supporting a bill that will help teachers identify bullying in public schools. Shirley Weber was one of several speakers during Muslim Day at the Capitol. Weber says Muslim children are often the targets of bullying and that more cases are being reported.
Sometimes kids can be very mean, and we've seen where children are hurt because of the things that occur. Our Muslim students are often bullied all the time because they wear their difference in the open. And so the hijabs and the other things that are there, sometimes they are picked on. It's very easily picked on.
And I know for myself, as a public school teacher, I've experienced harassment and bullying myself. And so I know if it's happening to teachers, it's going to happen to students, and we need to change that.
The bill supported by Assemblywoman Weber would require the State Department of Education to develop new training to help teachers identify warning signs for potential bullying. This week, the U.S. Supreme Court will hear arguments on President Trump's travel ban. The case involves the third version of the ban. 8 countries were originally targeted. 6 of them were from Muslim-majority nations. The African nation of Chad was removed from the list this month. Critics of the ban say the nations chosen and the president's statements on Twitter show the ban is based on anti-Muslim prejudice. The Trump administration argues the ban is within the president's authority to protect national security. Hundreds of Central Americans plan to arrive at the San Ysidro port of entry later this week in a so-called caravan. President Trump said in a tweet today that he has instructed Homeland Security to turn them away. KPBS Fronteras reporter Jean Guerrero has more.
In his tweet, President Trump called the caravan a disgrace and ended with the word wall in all caps, one sentence. The tweet ignores an important fact about the caravan. Most are asylum seekers. U.S. and international asylum law prohibit countries from turning people away at the border if those people express fear of returning home. Here's immigration attorney Ginger Jacobs.
Literally any person who is in the States or who arrives at the border of the United States, no matter what their immigration status is, has the right to apply for asylum. They don't have the right to get asylum, but they at least have, it's not guaranteed, but they at least have the right to apply.
Homeland Security says they won't let anyone enter the country illegally, and that the caravan has the, quote, apparent intention, end quote, of entering illegally. The agency did not immediately respond to a question about its basis for that assessment. Jean Guerrero, KPBS News.
The Salk Institute has suspended one of its top cancer researchers. The institute says it's become aware of allegations against Inder Verma, and an independent investigation is now underway. The magazine Science says the suspension came after one of its reporters asked about sexual harassment allegations. In a written statement, Verma has denied all allegations. Salk faces gender discrimination suits from 3 female employees. Today, UC San Diego is hosting a symposium dedicated to the life of John Muir, known as the father of the National Park System. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman has more.
UC San Diego named their second college after Muir in 1967. Today, they're celebrating 50 years of his legacy on campus. The keynote speaker tonight is Donald Worster, who has closely studied Muir. Tonight, he's speaking to a group of UCSD students about Muir's role in history.
Is this idea of preserving nature, preserving the wilderness, taking care of wildlife, protecting them in refuges, basically nature conservation, is it relevant today? I think most young people would say, he's damn right it's relevant today.
Worster is also examining Muir's role in modern-day conservation efforts. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Climate scientists are predicting a future of extremes for California. A new report published in the journal Nature Climate Change says California will see dramatic swings between wet and dry years. Researchers with the University of California worked on the report. They say future weather patterns coupled with the effects of climate change will make managing the state's water system more of a challenge. The weather this week, at least, will be consistent, with clouds in the morning followed by warm, sunny days. Erin Calandra has details in tonight's forecast.
Well, I hope you were able to get outside today and enjoy this beautiful day. It is great here in San Diego County. Nothing happening here across the county on the radar. That means no rain. It is pretty quiet. We do have an onshore flow, though, so that's creating a couple of extra clouds along the coast, mainly in those morning time hours. Other than that, though, the big picture looks pretty good. It's dry. We could use the rain, but it's not going to happen anytime soon. 56 tonight for our low, increasing clouds again because of that onshore flow. And across the region, it will be less cloudy in the interior areas like Borrego Springs at 64, Chula Vista 53, and Oceanside coming in right at 49 degrees. Tomorrow, those temperatures will be great. It is a bit warm, above average in places. San Diego reaching 70, and in Chula Vista 69. The deserts hot, around 98 degrees, and Mount Laguna 70, very pleasant. Tuesday, it's going to look pretty dry across the region. Everyone is under this dry, warm pattern. Temperatures are going to be skyrocketing over the next 2 or 3 days. We're going to see record challenging temperatures in this region. Further to the north, like in Oregon and Washington, they're going to see record breaking temperatures. So that's good news for them. So Tuesday, it's going to be pretty nice, 71 degrees. Wednesday, again, a beautiful day, eventually getting just a bit cooler by Thursday in those upper 60s. In the interior areas, we're in the 80s Tuesday, Wednesday not far behind, and then Thursday through Saturday, we slowly get a bit cooler. Temperatures dropping down into those low 70s. Very comfortable and pleasant temperatures there. In the mountains, we're in the 60s much of the week, and it's staying dry and sunny. And in the deserts, it is hot. We're going to be in the 90s all week long until Saturday. That's when we get a nice break. Sunny conditions, but around 89 degrees. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra. Ebony, back to you.
This week, the San Diego Asian Film Festival is holding its spring showcase. Tonight, the Nat at Balboa Park is hosting a screening of a documentary on the rise of the Filipino food scene. KPBS reporter Beth Accomando is there with some of the people involved in the making of the film. Hi, Beth.
Hi. I wish you guys could smell what I could smell down here. There are some great smells from this documentary that's coming up. So I'm here at the Nat, where Pacific Arts Movement is holding their spring showcase, and they will be screening the film Ulam, Main Dish, which is a documentary about Filipino food. And I'm fortunate enough to have the director of the film here, Alexandra Cuarto. So what led you to make this documentary?
It was a really long process, the last 3 years of connecting with my roots, basically. And so what I really wanted to do was find a way to understand what it was to be Filipino American. And so for me, that was through food.
So you're using food kind of as an entry point to kind of give people an education about Filipino culture.
Definitely. For me, it was only natural. You know, I love to cook. I cook every day. And for me, like, restaurants were kind of like my meeting place to go with friends. And, it was a special place for me to go to prom, that kind of thing. And so for me, I really wanted to highlight these restaurants that I felt would give a home to a new generation of Filipino American kids.
Now, it's a bit cruel to show people a documentary about food without offering food. So what is the event you have following this?
Oh my gosh. So it's, I think, going to be a historic event. 300 plus people doing Kamayan style dining. So basically it's, you eat with your hands. It's almost like a Filipino luau, which is going to be amazing. So there's going to be a lot of banana leaves spread over a table. You put all the food in the middle, and it's going to be delicious.
Great. So one of the chefs and restaurateurs that are in the film is Nicole Ponseca. So tell me, women restaurateurs are not a common thing. So what led you to go into the restaurant business and make it such a success?
Wow, thank you. Well, first of all, I'm a local. I'm from San Diego, so I'm really happy to be here. But I am from New York now. And I had the dream of putting Filipino food on the map about 20 years ago in 1998 when I saw very little representation. So to be here in San Diego doing Kamayan and this film and Ali's achievement is very surreal. It's been 20 years in the making for me personally, just to help see Filipino food get any kind of spotlight.
And what do you hope this documentary might achieve?
I can, for myself, I had very little representation growing up. I grew up in Escondido and Rancho Bernardo. So there were so many Filipinos around us, but when you looked in the media, the representation was null and void. I think I could count 3 people. Lou Diamond Phillips, Nia Peoples, and maybe Tia Carrere. So imagine when you're growing up, if you don't have people that look like you, you don't know necessarily what's possible. So even being a Filipino and a restaurateur, it's hard. It's challenging.
Now, I understand that there's going to be 13 chefs here, local chefs, and a lot of them don't get to cook Filipino food as part of their job. So what kind of an experience is that like for a chef to be able to kind of return to their roots to cook?
I can only imagine what it's like for all of these chefs to be here to cook the food that they grew up with, to honor it, to elevate it, to put their spin on it. Let's not forget that chefs are still artists. So the food is an extension of their memories, of their heart, of their flavors, of their family. And now to be able to do it in a venue like this, not only is it a source of pride, but I have to say it helps legitimize the cuisine and their existence.
Well, thank you. I'm here at the San Diego Natural History Museum. Ulam Main Dish will also screen again tomorrow night, and the Pacific Arts Spring Showcase will continue through Thursday. I'm Beth Accomando, KPBS Arts reporter here at the Nat.
Thanks, Beth. Musicians from Adele to Chance the Rapper have visited NPR's Washington, D.C. offices for intimate performances in the newsroom. It's called the Tiny Desk Concert Series. Since 2014, NPR has invited amateur musicians to enter its Tiny Desk contest. This year, thousands of musical acts from across the country are hoping for the chance to perform. Producer Michael Lipkin has a look at the entries from San Diego and the Imperial Valley.
The New Orleans group Tank and the Bangas won last year's contest, even though the band's video wasn't the most polished. That's because judges loved how genuine the group's performance was. More than 40 musicians submitted videos this year from San Diego and Imperial Valley. Some are professionally produced, others are more stripped down. The only rule is that the video has to include a desk somewhere. In Michael Eston's video, his eyes glow. That might be because it was shot using the wireless camera he also relies on to monitor his cat. Kaipora recorded its video on a golf cart decked out with Christmas lights, and band members made sure to work the Tiny Desk theme into the lyrics of the song, aptly titled Tiny Desk.
Hi, Bob. Yeah, you can't predict the future when you won't change the past. You can try to make this moment last. I think I'm pushing on to the Tiny Desk, the Tiny Desk, the desk.
The band Modern History jam-packed its video with props, including a rubber horse head with a beanie hat. Center stage is the band's mascot, an 11-year-old dog named Bella. That's short for Belandernagnon Falltruth Hemmingpurse. A few of the submissions were inspired by recent news. Twin brothers Dean and Wes Prometheus lead the band Be Mine Phantom Valentine. Dean's day job is as a psychologist at Murdoch Elementary in La Mesa. After the Parkland, Florida shooting, he kept his kids home when a school shooting threat was called into their district high school in San Marcos. That same day, he wrote, "Don't Let Me Bullet."
Please don't let me bullet. Can't you see the crisis on the line? Why did you let me bullet? Can't you hear what's spinning in my mind?
One songwriter for the alternative rock band Santa Pandora immigrated to the U.S. from Mexico in his teens. The other songwriter is his niece. Their song Periphery was motivated by the political rhetoric around asylum seekers.
Don't you know you extinguish your flame every time you yell out, go back from whence you came. Oh, still I'm soldiering on and I'm trying to cross the periphery. And I'm praying that they don't find me.
Several bands are hoping to add NPR honors to their local acclaim. The Routine was named Best Rock Group at the 2015 San Diego Music Awards and was a finalist in the category this year. The Routine's video was featured on NPR's All Songs Considered blog as one of the top early submissions. Singer Brian Barberin ripped an old desk out of the wall before filming. NPR said it was one of the best uses of a desk as dancing partner they'd seen. The band Sister Speak was nominated for Best Pop Album at this year's San Diego Music Awards and won for Best Pop Band last year. Frontwoman Sherry Ann filmed the group's video in the Santa Monica Mountains, surrounded by lush hills. Birds are chirping in the background as she plays next to a small desk with the book The Hidden Life of Trees displayed on top.
I got hold on my heart. I haven't the words to show, and I don't know if I could be stronger.
Will Farber may not have those accolades. His day job is a dressage horse trainer in Vista. But he made sure to include one key element in his video, some pandering to the judges.
I want to say hi to all of our friends out there in NPR. Keep doing what you're doing. We love you, baby, as they say.
The winner of this year's contest will be announced tomorrow. Michael Lipkin, KPBS News.
Stuck on the road of life, waiting to get told.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, confirmation battles on Capitol Hill. President Trump's picks for Secretary of State, CIA Director, and VA Secretary face opposition in the Senate. Coming up at 7 on KPBS.
After more than a year of temporary leadership, NASA has a new boss.
This is the crew of Expedition 55 on board ISS. We hear you loud and clear, and a hearty congratulations to our new administrator. Congratulations on your selection to lead NASA as you report to duty.
Those are astronauts on the International Space Station welcoming Jim Bridenstine. The former congressman from Oklahoma is the new administrator of the space agency. His nomination was held up for months over questions about his experience and partisanship. Bridenstine will be in charge of leading the Trump administration's call for a manned mission to the moon. A federal judge has ruled monkeys or any other animals don't have a right to claim copyrights. The lawsuit stems from this photo taken in 2011. A monkey in Indonesia took a selfie with an unattended camera. A lower court ruled in favor of the photographer whose camera was used. PETA appealed the case in 2015. Both sides reached a settlement, but the federal court decided to issue a ruling anyway to establish precedent for this portion of copyright law. Now, here's a look at what we are working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, Into the Fire, veterans find a new mission on the front lines of wildfires fight. And on Midday Edition, a personal finance expert shares tips for saving money on food. That's tomorrow on KPBS Radio. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.